It is another edition, a post-Week 15 edition. Hello, friends of the Bark Tank, presented by Sugardale. Back in the home office after the Browns lose to the Chiefs, dried out and warm finally again. Hi, I'm Andrew Siciliano. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, whomever this show. We appreciate you. And we appreciate everyone that came out as well to Huntington Bank Field to see the Browns and the Chiefs. It was not the best weather day at all. It was kind of the weather, honestly, that we thought we would have week 12, the Steelers game. When you looked at the forecast all week that week, heading into that TNF game, you thought cold rain, cold rain, cold rain. It obviously, we remember what happened by now, turned into the snow globe in the second half, and the Browns got a thrilling victory. This was not a thrilling victory. It was a gut punch of a defeat, a 21-7 defeat against a team that is 13-1, a team that has Patrick Mahomes. I'm convinced he is a shape-shifting sorcerer. He practices the dark arts. You can't tackle him, and when you do tackle him, he somehow flips the ball behind his head, and he hits DeAndre Hopkins or Juju Smith-Schuster or Travis Kelce or somebody downfield, and you're like, how did he just do that? But he did. They're great. They're 13-1, and there have been 13 times this year, not 13, but there have been many, at least a 10 to 11 times in that 13-game stretch, 13-win stretch, where teams say, man, we could have, should have had him. But you don't. And that is to their credit. Their credit, meaning the Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Their credit. So tip of the cap to them. Nothing I'm going to say here on this podcast is in any way taking away from the Kansas City Chiefs and what they have done. Browns could have, should have won the game, and they could have, should have played better. They didn't, and that's what's disappointing. Broken record. Obviously, it's disappointing. You've lost this many games. You are 3-11 with 3 more to go. The question is, who's going to be the quarterback? We tape this on Monday afternoon. Kevin Stefanski has already spoken for the day. He did his Monday press availability, and then the Browns had some players available. Standard operating procedure here for a Monday. Jerome Ford and Rodney McLeod both spoke. They both spoke of Nick Chubb and everything. We'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about the quarterback thing right now. Kevin came in Monday morning and said they still haven't put Sunday's game to bed, his words, and he hasn't yet or isn't yet ready to make an announcement on the quarterback for Week 16, which is a 1 p.m. start in Cincinnati against the Bengals on Sunday. That game is no longer on Fox. It has been moved to CBS for whatever that is worth. Just make a note of it. Kevin's not yet ready to say who's going to be the quarterback after Jameis Winston was picked off 3 more times and Dorian Thompson-Robinson had to come in and finish that game. I'm going to plant my flag right now in Team DTR. I think, and I'm ready to see Dorian Thompson-Robinson as this team's quarterback for the final 3 games. Before I explain why, let me say this about Jameis Winston. Love him, both as a person and as a quarterback. I have really, really, really come to love the guy the last 2 months. I had interviewed him a couple of times over the years. Full disclosure, I really didn't know Jameis from my days at NFL Network. Not that much at all. I rarely went to do the Bucs for training camp. When I was there, it was more the Tom Brady era. During the Jameis era, I really wasn't on the road down there to see the Bucs much, but I interviewed him over satellite. I love the guy. He is a bright light. He's a gem. He could sling the football. Obviously, the picks are the picks, and as of now, the picks are a problem. Clearly a problem. But all of the positive things you hear about Jameis Winston in the building, in the locker room, in the community are true. And here's the better part of it. There's a lot that you haven't heard that is also true and wonderfully positive. Wonderfully positive. Jameis Winston is the guy that remembers everybody's name. He is the guy that asks questions about your life and does so not to make conversation and to avoid talking about himself, but does so because he genuinely cares and wants to hear about you. He's that guy. He is authentic. He is lovable. He's good for any and every locker room, team, and community. Mean that. In this setting and this moment, I think the Browns organizationally need to see what Dorian Thompson-Robinson can do with 3 weeks and full preparation from Monday to Sunday, knowing that you are the guy. Here are the keys. Drive the car. I'd love to see it. When you take a quarterback in the fifth round, or any round for that matter, there's no guarantee. But when you take a quarterback in the 5th round and you've seen glimpses, you've seen those, you know what? I see it. He can play. I need more of that. Then you should put him back on the field to see if you can consistently get those moments. I would love to see it happen. Both can be true. Would love to see it happen for DTR personally and the organization, and also true, grateful that we had this ride with Jameis. And if it is Jameis, buckle up, let's have fun. That's fine. I'm going to be cool with that as well. But that's where I stand on the quarterback thing. On the Nick Chubb thing, man, it was heartbreaking. Going to talk to Nathan Zegura, my partner in the booth, coming up shortly. I know he felt the same way. Just a gut punch when you saw Nick leave, non-contact. He just started hopping on that foot and broke his foot. The question now turns to next year, and will Nick Chubb be back next year? Contractually, he's at the end of his deal, so he and the Browns would have to come to a new deal, and he'd have to re-sign for next season. Don't know how much interest there is going to be. I'm going to guess right now that the interest isn't overwhelming come March, not because of Nick Chubb personally or football-wise, just he's an older running back coming off 2 injuries. There isn't a robust free agent market for that. So that said, I would love to have him back. I want him back. Nick said last week he wants to end his career as a Brown. He doesn't want to leave Cleveland. I think everybody agrees. And I pray, I hope, I think that this Sunday was not Nick Chubb's final game in a Browns uniform. Man, it would just be awful on so many levels if that were the case. But business is business, and they have to figure out the business. Here's hoping all sides can do the business and get him back in a Browns uniform next year. And then finally on Myles Garrett, man, so happy that he escaped what appears to be serious injury. He was able to go to the podium, even though his eye was puffy and swollen. Left eye looked like he had gotten punched in the face, because in essence he did. Joe Thuney had gotten him through the visor. Actually, he had no visor on. So full disclosure, back up, Nathan and I assumed he had the visor on. He always wears the visor. We had seen the visor earlier in the game, but as Myles explained, he had just taken the visor off like one play earlier, because with the rain coming down, there's no windshield wipers on those things. He was having trouble seeing. And then he gets poked in the eye. Said Thuney apologized both during the game and after the game in the tunnel. They're cool. Myles has nothing against Joe Thuney. It was not a dirty play. But Myles had feared, because he's had LASIX, and without getting too far into it, that if he really got poked in the eye and it had disrupted the LASIX, the scar, the flipping it, all that it could have been serious. It isn't. He doesn't think. Went to the eye doctor on Monday. He should be okay. But man, that was scary, because when you take your helmet off and you're down face first, you're thinking non-contact, same side of the field where Deshaun had his injury, and you're like, oh my God, that's the worst. Not downplaying an eye, but okay, should be okay. Myles also said, and this was interesting, that there had been some thought to move him around during the game. Obviously, you try to find the best matchup, and maybe you move him to left end opposite right tackle Jawan Taylor, but that never happened, because he said that his vision actually played a role in that. That even moving him to the middle, they did rush him B gap a couple of times, kick him inside next to Mike Hall on the end, but that later in the game, he was okay looking forward, but looking sideways, that he was getting double vision. And they didn't want to move him around. They wanted to keep him in his comfortable spot there at right end. He didn't get to 100 sacks. He's gotten Joe Burrow a few times. I know I guaranteed last week that he would get it. I don't know. He's going to get it, and he's going to get it Sunday against Joe Burrow, or your money back. I kid. I always say, well, I guaranteed that. Or what, Andrew? What are you going to do if he doesn't get it? Well, he's going to get it. Myles is sitting on 99.5, and he's going to get it before his 29th birthday. He turns 29 on the 29th. That's the Dolphins game. By the time you listen to this, there's a good chance that Dolphins game is going to get flexed out of Sunday night. It'll be an afternoon game at Huntington Bank Field. Nothing official, but by now you know that's a possibility. Myles turns 29 that day. The Dolphins game, he will have that sack before his 29th birthday. I guarantee it. And that's that. That's that. 3-11. And now moving on to Cincinnati. So we'll have one more show here before Christmas. But happy holidays regardless. Hope the season is going great for you. And hope the holiday season is going great for my next guest, a guy that wore a fantastic white coat this past Sunday. So last week, after Gerard Cherry made his first appearance on the Bark Tank, I had heard from Nathan that he didn't get why he had been left out, and he so badly wanted to come on the Bark Tank. And so after Gerard broke the seal here of the three of us working together, now Gerard gets on the Bark Tank. Nathan Zegura, a post-Week 15 Bark Tank appearance. Good to see you, sir.
It's good to see you, too. Well, I'm pretty sure this is actually my second appearance, so I just wanted to have one more than Gerard.
Wait, when was there a previous appearance? Did I mess that up? When?
Yeah. Early in the season, I had to do it. I definitely did it once before. I don't remember when, but it was one of the earlier ones for sure.
You're right. Man,
Yeah.
This almost calls for redoing this segment, but I'm going to keep it in to show that I make mistakes, and you were there like on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis in the booth on Sunday to fix my mistakes. Man, I'm embarrassed. This is the second time you've been in my home. Wow. Okay.
I guess I'll have to be more memorable this time.
It was not that I'm memorable. It's that I have no memory. There's a huge difference. Hey, dude, look, we're heading into Week 16. This is kind of sort of what it's come to. I know you did CBD Monday, and I've had countless conversations with friends and family as well after watching what we saw on Sunday in the cold and the rain in a game that could have and should have been winnable. But look, a lot of teams have said that this year against the Chiefs, could have and should have been winnable, and then you didn't win them. Browns are now added to a list of 13 teams or 13 games where could have, should have been winnable, and Patrick Mahomes found a way to win. It's shooting yourself in the foot collectively over and over and over again, what makes it so frustrating. We move forward now where we have a quarterback conversation again. Nathan, I firmly believe, and I say firmly, all the while still loving me, Jameis Winston. Love him as a person. He is a gem. He's a ray of bright light that was able to shine on this season. That said, 3 games to go. I need to see DTR. Are you in the same boat?
Yeah, and I think, when we look back at this Jameis experience, if this is in fact the end of it, 2 memorable wins over Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and I think the thing that you would give him maybe the most credit for is really unlocking Jerry Jeudy and showing that Jerry Jeudy can be that number one guy that everybody thought he was going to be coming out of Alabama as a Blitnikoff Award winner and a first-round pick in Denver. He's over 1,000 yards. He's been averaging over 100 yards a game, in those 7 games with Jameis Winston. And so that he did. He brought some excitement. He showed how explosive this could be, but unfortunately he also turned the ball over too much and made it impossible for this team to win consistently. And in this game, it really culminated in 6 turnovers. Now, they're not all on Jameis Winston. In fact, only 3 of them were on Jameis Winston. He had a James Prochet fumble on a punt, a Nick Chubb fumble, which is something that does not happen very often.
Turnover
and then
downs
DTR
as well
came in
there.
And what?
And the turnover on downs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, turnover on downs really was kind of 7. You're right. And then you had DTR throw that interception late, trying to lead that furious comeback. So I do think we know what it is with Jameis, and it's a kind of paralleled his whole career. Ability to be incredibly explosive, ability to throw for a lot of yards, ability to put points on the board, unfortunately, for both teams. And that's what we saw, over these 7 games. The Browns lead the league in giveaways over the 7 games. You can't do that and expect to win. And this was a Chiefs team, by the way, that wasn't really taking the football away. They had 10 takeaways in their first 13 games. They get 6 in this one. So I do think you need to see DTR because you need to know, can he be my backup? And the last time we saw him prepare for a game and start a game was against Denver, in Denver against a good defense. And his last 3 possessions all were scoring drives. And then he got knocked out with injury. And so part of it's you need to see him. Can he play? Can he stay healthy? And what does it look like with the full week of preparation? But I would say to DTR, you've got to take care of the football too. He's thrown 3 picks this year in very limited time. And we need to see the DTR we've seen in the preseason where he's, 70% passer, moves the offense with both his arm and his legs, puts us points on the board and takes care of the football. And I think the onus will be on him to prove that he can do that here should he get the opportunity.
And you've had glimpses here, obviously, the Cincinnati game, the first time where Deshaun got hurt and DTR came in. He finished that touchdown drive. And then early in the third quarter, made some plays with his legs before he, too, got injured, banged up a finger, and Jameis had to come in. As we tape this on Monday afternoon, Kevin Stefanski had said Monday morning he's not yet ready to make that quarterback decision, still trying to process Week 15 and the loss to the Chiefs. I can't assume anything this year.
Right.
But I would hope, not assume, hope that it is DTR. All the while, knowing that what we had with Jameis was kind of special. I don't want to put the man in a box. I do think he could start and should start in this league. But there is good and there is bad. And there are some GMs, some coaches who, when you ask about their number 2 quarterback, they say, well, I'm really good with this guy getting me through a couple of game stretch, middle of the season, coming off the bench when needed, and maybe get me through a window, a quarter of the season while my number 1 guy comes back. I feel like Jameis has firmly planted a flag that he can be that guy. Absolutely. Can he be a 17-game guy? I don't know yet. I want to believe that he can be. Matter of fact, I'm leaning 80-20 he can be. Not everything is his fault, but what we've seen the last couple of weeks, you needed to make that change yesterday. Both can be true. Jameis was great, and you needed to make that change. And I think organizationally here, even though Kevin will say, and I'm with him, you got to win the game. We play to win the game this week. Organizationally, you need to know if DTR now in his second season as a 5th-round pick can be a piece of this team, period, whether it's the 1, the 2, whatever. You have to figure that out. A couple of other things here. Obviously, Nick Chubb, it's heartbreaking. I mean, it was a gut punch. I'm leaving the stadium yesterday, and I'm trying to get to the airport and fight traffic, and I see it hit my phone, and I was like, oh, man. Like, I feel so bad for the guy. The good news is he likely doesn't need surgery, and he can be back 6-8 weeks, whatever it is. He's not going to play again this year. He can and will be back. But the question now is, will it be here? Nick Chubb's contract is up after this season. I know the community, the fans certainly want him back. I would think the building wants him back as well, and Nick wants to be back, but they have to make the business side of this work. I firmly do believe, Nathan, that if given more time, we will see the old Nick Chubb, at least enough of it that it's worth having him back. You don't just come back from shredding everything in your knee and return to being a 1,500-yard back with all that explosiveness.
No, and I think we've seen it. I mean, we've seen it, last week he went for 4.4 yards a carry, which was at the time the best. This game on Sunday, he goes 4.6 yards a carry, which was the best at the time. And you saw just what, even from the booth, you could see his acceleration was coming back. This is a probably a year and a half, almost 2-year recovery. Yeah. And so next season, that's where he's going to be. And I think you're going to see Nick Chubb be much better. Absolutely. Nick Chubb, I think, should finish his career as a Cleveland Brown. And I know he wants that. And I think the organization wants that. I think, as I sit here right now in the studio and I look out, what do I see? A giant mural of Nick Chubb. Yeah. So, yeah, I think you're seeing signs, and this isn't going to affect his kind of ability to get back to who he was. So that's the good news there. It's going to kind of put him on a little bit of a pause, but he's going to be ready for next year. And I think next year is when we're going to see that guy, 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 4 straight Pro Bowls, the guy who averaged 5 yards a carry every year. He had been in the NFL. So it is such a bummer because he worked so hard, and that's why he was still playing even though the season was out. He worked so hard to play football again. That's what he loves to do. That's what he does. He didn't rehab to not play, and now the injury is going to force him out.
Questioning Monday.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
This is not me taking shots at any particular reporter, but Kevin was asked Monday morning, had you had conversations before this injury about shutting him down? And Stefanski answered with, well, can I ask why? Like, why would you ask that?
Yeah.
And no, he didn't fight this hard, to your point, to get shut down. Both can be true. He doesn't look like he did a few years ago, and he's still productive and valuable. Like, it doesn't mean you shut him down. Now, you could argue, I want to see more Pierre Strong. I want to see more Jerome Ford. That's a different conversation. But shut him down, I just didn't get that whatsoever. And then a quick thought here in the Bengals. The Bengals, you want to talk about sloppy, right? It's not just what we saw with the Browns this past Sunday. Let me pull up the note here on the Bengals win over the mayonnaise-eating Will Levis Tennessee Titans. It was the first game since at least 1950. So when you hear that phrase, it means the NFL research department doesn't have the statistical data to actually with confidence, look back beyond 1950. Incomplete box scores, newspaper clippings, whatever. But it was the first game since at least 1950, Cold War, we're talking, to have 10 plus combined turnovers and 25 plus combined penalties. So that's what you're walking into in Cincinnati. So Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that was it was a sloppy one. Joe Burrow was shown visibly upset on the sidelines during the game and talked about it afterwards, that it was just not good enough. He himself accounted for 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and lost a fumble. They had the penalties, but they're still an explosive team. This is a team that you're going to have to score with to beat them. I mean, that's what happens. That's when they lose. They still score 30, and they lose with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, with Chase Brown, who's playing so well for them at running back. They are, and Joe Burrow playing, I think, at an MVP level. And he's not going to get it most likely because of what their record is, but he's playing at an MVP level. They're going to put points on the board. It's going to be the onus is to be on the Browns to match them in a shootout.
Yeah. Say this about Joe Burrow. I know we will say it all week. He is having the best bad team quarterback season ever. Ever. They are a bad team right now with a great quarterback. And honestly, without watching the Titans game, because we were doing our game, I've yet to watch that one, full disclosure. But the great quarterback overcame all those mistakes.
Yep.
If you have all those mistakes and you don't have the great quarterback, you're not going to win. And obviously, that's the situation the Browns have right now. I appreciate you, man. I know you had CBD this morning and a million other radio hits here as well. The college football breakdown on Monday's episode. Fantastic.
Let's go, baby.
It wasn't even a college football Nate conversation. It was just the outpouring of college football knowledge, which I know you're excited.
I'm really digging deep.
And listen, weekend around the college football games this weekend, the playoffs, the Buckeyes and everything on Saturday evening. Maybe we'll watch that from Cincinnati.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the fact that we're not in the playoffs, and right now, we're looking at a top 10 pick, we're going to have to be watching a lot of tape of college football to get ready for whoever the new Cleveland Browns are going to be down the road. So it's a great time to immerse yourself.
As it stands now, quite unofficial, the Browns hold the 7th overall pick in the 2025 National Football League annual selection meeting. Stay tuned. Details to follow. All right, my friend. You're the greatest. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Nathan Zegura, everybody. It is now, to quote a head coach at UNC, on to Cincinnati. 1 o'clock, as mentioned earlier, on CBS coming up for Week 16. Amazingly, Week 16. You want to do a fun thought experiment? Go back to the first Battle of Ohio this year. If Jameis had been the number 2 that day instead of the number 3, remember how well he was firing the football in the fourth quarter, touchdown to David Njoku? Would the Browns have won that game? I don't know. Doesn't matter at this point necessarily, but I think it's going to be DTR. If it isn't, it's going to be Jameis, and it is going to be fun. Also, do a thought experiment. What is Skyline chili? And why would you ever eat it? Like, in all seriousness. Anyway. Happy holidays, friends. Thank you again for watching and listening to The Bark Tank, presented by Sugardale. I know it's the holidays, as mentioned, and I know you have a lot of time you're getting pulled, or not a lot of time, getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So I truly appreciate when you take time for this show every week. Until we talk again after a Browns victory in Cincinnati. So long.